Christians is written to us to empower us and encourage us to live for Christ in an unchristian world. Whether you know it or not, that's what our battle is, y'all. Your number one battle is the fact you trying to be a Christian in an unchristian world, and the devil won't leave you alone.
Lakeisha Davis. Thank you. And so essentially, this is an unapologetically her roundtable. And so, what we're doing, what our goal is self care for women. You know, I mean, of all different ages. Just it doesn't really matter what age you are. Ooh. But unapologetically her. This is a roundtable. That's what the topic of discussion is. And so we'll have really three main topics, and then we'll have some subtopics that we'll discuss. But I have passed around certain cards that you all have, and so feel free in the moment or now or whatever. This may be the only time you get out. I don't know you guys' life story. I don't know. But if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, that is what those cards are for. And so that is essentially what we're doing, and then we'll continue to discuss them. We may address them. And so essentially, that's what it is.
And so just piggybacking off of my partner right here. So yes, we are discussing unapologetically her. Today, we're having a round table discussion on self-compassion. And today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Just women having a conversation. And in the midst of the conversation, you all may think of some things that, like questions, comments, concerns that you may want to get out, and you can write them on your card. If you don't feel comfortable asking your question or sharing your comment out loud, you can write it on your card, and we'll take it up and we can read it, okay? But I want to introduce the panel to you today. I have three amazing women whom I have had the ultimate pleasure of getting to know, and excuse me, y'all, as I navigate through my phone. We all met in graduate school at the best graduate university in the world, Mississippi College. And so, and after that, after we graduated, we kind of just reconnected again. We're all in the same field. We're all counselors. And we just reconnected after that. And we get together monthly before COVID stepped in and kind of messed us up a little bit. But we got together monthly, and we just discussed things. We just talked. We just let our hair down. We discussed life, work, children, marriage, love, relationships, everything. Everything you could think about, we discuss it. But today we're going to sit here in front of you all and share our conversation with you. And we're going to talk again about self-compassion. So I want to introduce, and I do not have on my glasses, so bear with me. I want to introduce the panel to you, and I'm going to start with Marilyn Johnson. If you could just wave your hand. Marilyn is a licensed professional counselor in Mississippi and the state of Texas. She is currently in private practice at Resilience Counseling and Recovery Center, located in Flowood. Her areas of expertise include adjustment to transitions, stress management, and mood disorders such as depression and anxiety. Marilyn's mission is to help individuals understand themselves so they can better manage their mental health. In her free time, you can find her spending time with loved ones, outdoor activities, watching action-packed movies, and challenging any brave soul to a game of taboo or anything that can be turned into a competition. So, so everyone, that is Marilyn. Let's give this lady a round of applause. Next, we have Tiffany Williams. Tiffany is a native of Braxton, Mississippi. She graduated from Mendenhall High School. After high school, she continued her undergrad at Belhaven University. After undergrad, she obtained her master's degree at Mississippi College with a concentration in marriage and family counseling. Currently, Tiffany serves as military family life counselor at Camp Shelby in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She also has her own private practice, Essential Wellness Counseling, LLC. She has the passion and desire to help motivate and empower others. Tiffany's goal is to continue her mother's legacy with their annual ladies' retreat. She desires to open up a family life center in her native town and to serve the mental health needs in her community. Tiffany comes from a close-knit, loving family. In her spare time, In Tiffany's spare time, she's enjoyed spending time with her daughter, Chesney, and traveling with family and serving at her church. Ladies, meet Tiffany. Now, the next person I'm going to introduce, I'm just going to tell you about her. So this is my ultimate fave, Dr. Talia Strouder. Talia is also a licensed professional counselor. She's also a counselor at the VA, so she works with veterans. She is the mother of 2 daughters. I know their names, I know their nicknames, so I'm not going to give their nicknames. But a millennial, and what do you call the ladybug, yes. She also has a grandchild now. Talia has been in the counseling field for over 20. Yes, over 20 years. And she works with women. She deals with all type of mental health disorders, depression, anxiety, veterans, trauma. You name it, she does it. Ladies, meet the panel. Dr. Talia Strouder. Just call her Doc. What? I'm Keisha. Hi.
This volume on max. So my name is Thea Myers. I'm a member of Cherry Grove Missionary Baptist Church, of course. I just come here occasionally. But essentially, we're here to do this roundtable because I think it's important for women to get together. Most importantly, I think that majority of what my life has looked like has been strong women in my life, and that doesn't mean that they have been educated in any manner, but they have been educated by life, and so I think that's an importance amongst women to get together and share their life experiences, and that's what I thrive off of. I'm a graduate of Jackson State University, I love, come on now. Keisha, I know you're from Alcorn, we won't hold that against you.
Yes.
We will not hold that against you. I have a civil engineering degree, especially in environmental science, which I do not use, but I do use my civil engineering degree. So that's what it is, and that's what we're here for. I'm glad you all have joined. I will not hold up this panel any further, and we will get started. The cards, like I said, write down your questions. If you need a card, let me know. If you need a pen, let me know. This is an open discussion, and so there is no, I gotta wait to the end. Let us know. I'm here. I have a full mic available for you all to speak and talk and interrupt, and that is what this is about. So you guys let me know on the side. I'll be over there. But if not, enjoy. This is what it is. Get out the house and enjoy. So thank you all. Truly, truly thank you all, and thank you all. Thank you.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with our discussion. I just have a brief, quick announcement. Nikki, are you live? Could you share it? For some reason, those who are trying to log on, I don't know if the page is private, it's not allowing them to get in. Okay. Okay. Thea Myers. Follow Thea Myers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our discussion going. And today, like I told you, ladies, we're going to start the discussion around self-compassion. And when we talk about self-compassion, we're talking about how we treat ourselves, okay? In the midst of challenges, the good times, the bad times, being able to be kind to ourselves when things don't go the way we wanted to, even when it goes the way we wanted to. So I don't want to get too far because I could turn this into a whole discussion on my own, but I want to get the ladies started with just talking about self-compassion. Tiffany, what is self-compassion to you?
She was going to start with me. Self-compassion to me meaning giving yourself grace. Giving yourself the opportunity to be who you are, judgment-free. Also, compassion meaning knowing that you're not perfect. Knowing that you are allowed to make mistakes. The problem comes into play when you continually make those mistakes and you do not learn from your lesson.
And Tiffany brought me a great segue to get the other ladies talking. When we're talking about being kind to yourself and extending grace, I think about that Superwoman Syndrome, where we feel like we can do it all. We have to have all the answers. We have to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, what time, what day, at this moment, maybe tomorrow. Let me get it done now. I can just go on and on with that Superwoman Syndrome because I had to take my cape off. But, Doc, what y'all think about that, the Superwoman?
Thank you, Keisha. So when it comes to the Superwoman myth or the Superwoman Syndrome, like you said, take the cape off and burn it. We cannot be everything. We cannot do everything. We cannot control everything. So I grew up in a household where I was the eldest out of two, and we had cousins that were like siblings to me. And so some of the lessons that were passed down, do it right the first time. You won't have to ask anybody, kind of do it yourself. And growing up and going into this field, I had to unlearn some of those things that were passed down. Now, does that make my mother and my aunts and grandparents bad? No. They were just teaching what they knew. They taught out of their experiences. And so I thought I had to be this strong black woman to make it in life. Or I thought I had to be this strong black woman and not be vulnerable with people or not giving myself to others. So I had to learn through the process, and I'm glad I went into the field of counseling because I learned that I can't be all for everybody. Sometimes I can't be even all for myself. And it's okay not to be that. It is okay to take a day off from work, take a mental health day. It's okay to say no and not feel like you're obligated to give somebody an explanation. No is a complete sentence by itself. When I do my assessments and the person says no, I put it in quotes and put a period at the end. It's a complete sentence. So being this superwoman, I think is a myth. And superheroes are only in movies and on cartoons, as far as I'm concerned.
Can I add on to that? Yeah. So when you think about the Superwoman Syndrome, I know it's a lot that us as African American women that we face, having to maintain the household, a career, being active in the community and whatever other responsibilities that may come up. But one thing that I was reminded of as we were talking about this is you said a key word as far as grace and vulnerability. And, as being a strong black woman, we feel like we can't be vulnerable, right? So that challenges that narrative. So I was thinking like one way you can challenge that narrative is by asking for help, letting someone know that, hey, I'm running late. Are you able to pick up the kids? Or, hubby, can you cook dinner tonight? Or asking a friend, hey, I need some me time. Do you mind coming over and, helping me get my laundry room together or anything like that? So that causes us to be vulnerable when we ask someone for help. But it's a great way to challenge that narrative of, I can do it on my own. I don't need any help. Right? So that's mine.
And I also want to just add, as it relates to being a superwoman at home and also being a superwoman in the church, because a lot of time, and I'm a firm believer, whatever you find your hands to do in the house of the Lord, do it with all your heart. But at some point, you have to realize that you are overworking and overdoing things that you can burn out and you can be more harmful than helpful to a project or to a certain thing that you're trying to do in the church. If you're not at your best, then you can't be at your best for anyone else. And you have to find that balance of church and at home. I'm a pastor kid. So I see things from both sides. When my dad or when my mom will overly work themselves in the church and then also trying to balance and do everything at home as well. It takes a lot out of a person. So you have to make sure that you're replenishing yourself as you're giving out.
And Doc, you said something that really stuck out to me that I really want us to kind of touch on. Well, you said two things. You said unlearn and being vulnerable. And that's something that I know that I work a lot, when I work with women, especially African American women, I do a lot of unlearning and a lot of reteaching because we do have a lot of things that were taught to us. And I speak for myself because I grew up in the church as well. So a lot of things such as, putting others before yourself. And that's true. Those are the golden rules. They really are. However, sometimes we can overextend ourselves with putting everybody before us. And therefore, it may look like when it's time for me to care for me, I'm looking selfish. I'm selfish. I'm not a giver. Some people may even say you're not a Christian. You're not these things. But I have to reteach and help women unlearn a lot of those myths, a lot of that misinformation, and then kind of make it make sense to them. Because I am going to put others before me, but not to a point that I put you before me. Keisha's going to always come first. And if I can help you, I'm going to help you. If not, there's nothing I can do about it, because every day I'm not 100%. So when we talk about unlearning and we're talking about being vulnerable, because sometimes we can have that misinformation, those misconceptions, and we build walls to a point that that we can't be vulnerable. We don't know how to ask for help. Like I think Marilyn said that. We don't know how to say, hubby, can you pick up the kids? Or me, when I want my son to do something, I don't know how to ask you to do that because I'm so used to doing everything on my own. But that's not healthy. What y'all think?
Boundaries are important as well, Keisha. When you do go through the process of unlearning something, think about, I'm 49, so I'll be 50 in November. And I'm excited about turning 50. Because there's just, when I took some time to kind of look back just over my life and just the unlearning of some of those things. And again, please don't get me wrong, my mom and the ladies in my life are phenomenal women. But they gave me what they knew from where they knew, from their experiences. And so even I've had to teach them some things. They travel the world now. And I think it's amazing that they are going to different countries. They're not waiting on their friends to say, hey, we want to go. So, unlearning those things like that, like you have to always be attached to your family. Saying no, I can't stress that enough. That's a short word, but it is so powerful. Let's practice it right now. Can y'all say no? I don't believe you. Can y'all say no? Okay, there we go. And you had the facial expression to go along with it. And it's okay because sometimes people will guilt you into, well, Mom, everybody else is doing it, or it's the hottest thing that's going. No means no. At the end of the day, we still no because it's not servicing me well. I had to learn how to not put my children, well, the second child, because I think I told my first one, I'll pay for therapy. I promise you I'll pay for therapy. You were the guinea pig. But I'm not putting my second one in every activity because I don't have time. It's only 24 hours in a day. And some days I just don't feel like being bothered, and I'm okay with that. I'm testifying to you. Okay, she feels me. So being able to unlearn this stuff, like Tiffany said, I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a minister, and so feeling like, and I know some people may look at me crazy when I say this, but I'm going to say it. Every time the church doors open, I didn't have to be there because that may not have been my ministry. You serving the youth may not have been my ministry. Being an usher may not have been my ministry. Now, there's nothing wrong with supporting, but I don't have to be all for everything. It's impossible to be all for everything, whether it's church, at home, with my family. I can't do it all. So I took the cape off. I stomped it a couple of times, and then I burned it. And that's okay. You have to. I know how many people have flown before? So what does the flight attendant tells you when you fly? If something should happen, what do you need to do first? Say it out loud. Okay, so why do we need to put our mask on first? I can't hear you. You have to protect yourself first, because it goes back, I think, what Marilyn said. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if I don't have my mask on and I'm trying to help the person next to me to put their mask on, it's two of us that could possibly be hurt in that process. So it's important for us to put our mask on. It's important for us to draw those fine lines. It's important for us to have those values and those things that are important to us. And like Keisha said earlier, it's not being selfish. Self-care, self-compassion is not selfishness. It's actually healthy, because the more you take care of yourself, the more you can give out to other people, if you so choose to give out to other people.
And I just want to ask you all, are you all aware when your cup is running dry, when you're tired and burned out? Are you all aware personally of how that shows up? I'll be first to disclose. I am moody, very irritable, snappy. I don't have any patience. It's at a point where I'm not sleeping well. My cravings, I'm grabbing sweets and breads and everything else. So I know when I'm going down that hole, when I'm not taking good care of myself. So I want to challenge you all to be aware of when your body is starting to run dry. You don't want to wait until your gas is empty, right? You want to make sure that you are constantly checking in with yourself. How am I feeling emotionally? Have I met my needs? It can be something practical as eating healthy, making sure you're getting your meals. You're not skipping out because you're running here and there for the kids, your husband, or whatever responsibilities that you have, right? Making sure you're getting adequate amount of sleep, right? Getting some physical activity going on, at least trying to have at least 20 to 30 minutes of where your heartbeat is up, and whether you're walking or running or doing anything strenuous, is playing a basketball game or anything like that. But making sure your needs are met first. And so making sure you know what that looks like practically when you are starting to run dry.
And a lot of what I'm hearing as we're talking about, making sure we are aware of when our cup is running empty, making sure we're aware of ourselves. I'm hearing a lot of balance. So just making sure that we have that I'm going to say work-life balance, but just balance all together, because that is so important. And as Marilyn was sharing, she knows when her cup is running dry. I know when mine is as well. And you probably won't see me for a little while. I tend to get ghost, as they call it. I'll go under my rock. I'll hide. I'll, and that's unhealthy. Let me say that. That's unhealthy. And that's how I know, Keisha, you need to take care of yourself. And so then that's when I go, and my time for myself looks like I go and I exercise. I intentionally spend time with people. okay? Because sometimes I don't like being social. I talk for a living. And some days I just want to sit in silence. And I don't want to hear anything, not even myself, because I didn't heard myself all day today. But yeah, I sit and I get with people and I interact with, I journal, I color. If you like to sit at the reservoir, go sit at the reservoir. If you like to walk, go run. Marilyn, I think, I don't know where I heard this, maybe I'm hearing it in my own head, join a gym. If there's those things where you notice that you're running dry, then do those things so you could fill your cup back up. Thea, I think you got something.
And so it wasn't to interrupt you, but it was really to get to a point to follow what you were saying was what it looks like when my cup runs dry is socializing. I like to socialize. We're going out to eat, or we're going out of town, or we're just hanging out, things of that nature. But truly intentional what my place in here was to see if anyone had any comments in the audience about what their balance looks like, or if they felt the need to share, or they felt the need to ask a question. I just want to make sure that you guys know that this is inclusive. So if you all had any questions or comments at this moment in time, feel free. You don't have, it doesn't, I didn't write it on my card. Personally don't care. But if you have anything right now, like what does that look like? And feel free to share that right now. If you want to wait, that's fine. But we have a break right now, and I'm asking you all if you have any comments about balance and what that looks like for you all.
Family and social life, are they bleeding over into each other so much until it looks all the same? And what I mean by that, let me, about 20, because I was a novice therapist at the time. So I stayed at work late. I would take my notes home. I wouldn't have time for my daughter, my oldest. I would answer every call, every email. Just when I popped, they were all in my own, everything was on my phone, whether it was work email. And so everything was kind of bleeding over into everything. There was no separation of when I got off at 3:30, that was it. Or when I did this, that was it. So everything, it was messy. And so I had to, in order to save my relationship with my oldest daughter, I had to start taking some stuff off the table. I had to start saying no to some things. I took the email off my phone. When I became a supervisor, some years in, look, don't call me after 5 o'clock unless the building is on fire. And when it's on fire, call 911 because I can't do anything. I'm not a firewoman. So being intentional about placing boundaries in certain in spaces. I'm even intentional about when I come home now. They know don't talk to her right now. She needs to decompress. Leave her alone for about 30 minutes, and then I can come back out and I can service you. But right now, don't bother me. And that's okay, because you will constantly be going and moving all the time, and if you do not decompress, you become snappy, you become short, and now I got to go make this relationship up. I got to go apologize because I said something that I shouldn't have said because I didn't take the time for me to decompress. And I try to be intentional about it, even to where my youngest, if she needs a mental health day, guess what? I don't make her go to school on that day, because if I do, she's not going to be her best self. And we have to give our children permission to have mental health days as well. We have been through a traumatic experience with COVID. We've been through a traumatic experience with the deaths that just have happened in this city alone. That's trauma, and it's compounded just so many times. We and I'm talking about us as a culture, we're expected to just go on, just keep it moving, just push through, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Now I'm taking the boots off, and that's okay for us to feel what we feel, acknowledge it, and then have a conversation around it and do something about it. It's all okay. That's self-compassion.
To tag along what you were saying about being intentional, so one way to be self-compassionate towards yourself is maybe keeping your doctor's appointments. How many of us are guilty of skipping out because, oh, I feel fine, I'll reschedule for later in the year, and then you don't go to your doctor's visit? That's a part of your self-care, is taking care of your health, right? So don't skip out on your annuals, y'all. Your checkups, we need to go, right? And another thing about being intentional is knowing the things you need throughout the day. And so, like you were saying, for me personally, I'm intentional about my mornings because it set the tone for the day. So I love my mornings to start quiet. And I normally do a devotional. I'll normally go for a walk, and I'm in nature. I don't like the TV on. If I have music on, it's praise and worship or some rain sounds or something without lyrics. But yeah, so I'm intentional about that time in the morning because it helps me to be better throughout the day. And so even in the evenings, I can identify with having some time. When I get home from work, sometimes I just sit in my car and just stare out in space. But that's my me time. You know, I do that for a good 30 minutes before I go in the house. And so that's why I encouraged you out earlier to know what you need personally. Because when you know what you need, you're able to communicate it to the people around you or to set those boundaries that you need in place.
So I'm going to enter, and I hate to interrupt, I'm going to enter in a question right now. Should we set boundaries so our personal life and our work life don't travel over?
Yes. I think we all can say yes. Yes, you definitely want to set those boundaries. And then I'm going to speak from a different perspective that I know that the others are going to speak from, because one thing they know about me, I'm very career driven. Very career driven. That's something I had to accept about myself. I really did. I tried not to own it. I am that girl who brings my work home. I am that girl who works on the weekend. I am that girl who is in the office, and it's not because I have to, it's because I want to. And I had to own that about myself, and then I had to realize, how does this fit in the lives of others? Now, I did have a little break in there where my son lived with his dad for a little while, so I was able to kind of put some things in perspective there, but now intertwining him back with me, and it's like, okay, let me tell you something. This is mama, this is you. Mama's gonna be at work from this time to this time. This is gonna be your time, and then mama's gonna go back and do some work at this time and that time. As long as you're good, I'm okay. And I think for me, that is the balance for me, where I will intentionally work more than I play. And I do that because, y'all, that's who I am. And if you know that's who you are, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. I do not apologize for my career. I do not apologize for my work. I don't apologize to myself. I don't apologize to my son. You know, because at the end of the day, as long as you get what you need, I got to get what I need. But now y'all can answer the question from a different perspective. That's from a career-driven person.
But I think, Keisha, what's important about that is you've owned up to it, and you're doing it in a healthy manner. So I'm going to work from 8 to 4. 4 to 6 is your time. And since I like work, at 6:30, I'm going to go back to work. So that's healthy, as opposed to I'm just going to do it all the way through, and I'm missing Zay in that.
Was me initially. I was doing it all the way through, and I didn't know how to include him. But then when I tried, it was all bleeding together. And it was almost like, y'all, my grandma would roll over in her grave when I say this, but it was almost like I was lying to myself. And, she liked to say telling a story. But it was almost like I was not being honest with myself, because honestly, my work was important. Yes, I love my son, and I love others, but my work I love just as much. And so now I had to find a way to where it all came together. And I guess, Doc, I guess it is healthy. I guess I can say it's kind of healthy now, because when you do have children, and like, Doc, I think it was you said you don't put them in everything. And that's something that, again, when my son lived in Texas and he was with his dad retired so that he could devote every single moment to his children. He did that. And that was something that I saw. I said, well, okay, I see how to give Zay every single moment of my life I have to retire. Well, I'm not going to do that. Have at it. You be super dad. I'm going to be working mom. And that was our agreement. And that's what we did. And, I noticed that now, because even with Zay being back with me, it's like, okay, you're not going to do everything. Your mom works, so pick what you like the best, and that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to call it quits. And then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do what I do. And then after that, I'm going to call it quits.
So, as that question was being asked, actually, I was thinking in my mind about boundaries and about making sure that we're able to set the boundary and not feel guilty about setting it. Before coming into counseling in the mental health field, I wasn't knowledgeable of certain terms as boundary, self-care. As Talia stated before, our mom and dad and our forefathers, they always instill in us to be your best at all times, work hard, be dedicated. But in the meantime, they didn't tell you how to be compassionate and how to be more understanding of yourself. And so I went through life, not that my mom or my family had a bad life, because actually we had a good life. And I usually tell people before 2020, there was nothing that I really just went through. And so what I say that for, because it seemed like after that, everything just went downhill, but it was a lesson learned. I would often see my mom go to work day in, day out, working at the clinic, being everything she needs to be to the doctor, secretary, whatever she needs to be. Then she'll come home and be a mom and a wife. And she would sometimes be so tired, I would see her drag and climb in bed and complain about having all the aches and the pain. And I noticed her complain about the physical pain, because that's another attribute to lacking of taking care of yourself, the physical pain. But also, I noticed as being a therapist, the mental and emotional pain that she was dealing with. And so when I started noticing those things, I started pointing out or making plans such as like the retreat, because I knew she wasn't going to do it for herself. So I said, well, let's plan a retreat, because it's going to incorporate the church. And it's also going to give her that time away to just enjoy and fellowship with other ladies. Me, as we balance, everybody on here know, I don't bring work home with me. I don't bring work at home with me at all, because I realize if I'm at work and I'm stressing out and I'm bringing it home and something happens to me, they're going to put somebody else in my place within a couple of hours or the next day. So if I'm doing everything for them, how am I taking care of myself and how am I taking care of my child? Now, I set boundary with my child, because she expects for me to do everything as being a single parent, and I feel somewhat guilty because I am a single parent, that I overcompensate her for a lot of things that I shouldn't. But at the same time, I show that as my way of love. But here recently, I found myself saying no more often, not only to my daughter, but to my family as well. Because out of some type of obligation. I felt like I had to do certain things, even being the pastor's child, doing things in the church. I felt like if I didn't do it or the family didn't do it, nobody else going to do it, because nobody's going to take care of it the way we take care of it, because we actually put in the blood, sweat, and tears, you know what I'm saying? So I had to learn how to say no. And I tell my sisters and them all the time, boundaries. And my older sister, here she go with that boundary mess again. And I am, because at the end of the day, I'm setting this boundary. Whatever my peace is, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't feel sorry or guilty about it. I found out traveling is my peace. Every other month, I'm traveling. I don't care if it's just going to the coast, if it's just going to Memphis. I'm going somewhere because I realize that is my peace. So I encourage each and every one of you all to find out what your peace is and actually take action and not just speak on it. Because I tell my sister all the time, y'all talk a lot of stuff, what you want to do, what you want to see change, but until you actually put it into action, things are forever going to be the same.
When you think about boundaries, when I think about boundaries, values come up for me. So what's important to you in your life right now? And that may change over portions of your life, right? Yeah, and that's okay. Because 10 years ago, I was very career driven, right? That was something that I valued. It was important to me. It's still important to me now, but I'm at a place career-wise where I'm happy and I'm content. So now my priorities has changed, and my social life is more important to me. So spending time with family, friends, and traveling, and just getting out, meeting people, that's more important to me now. That's what I value. And so I set my limits around that. And how that sort of correlates with work is I do my heaviest part of work during the beginning of the week. Because Thursday, Friday rolling around, I'm ready to socialize. So that's sort of how I've set a boundary, or knowing my limits, because my values have changed. I'm still career driven. I still love my career, and it's still important to me. But now the social aspect of my life that I have been missing out on, I realize for so long, that's a priority for me right now. So it changes. So that's why you need to self-assess to see where you are and what's important to you in this particular part of your life.
I want to just interject here. I hear you all talking about socializing and doing those things, but I'm not there. I'm a retired nurse, and I'm a caregiver to my chronically ill husband. And when I say caregiver, I am that. No children, no aunts, uncles, nobody, no help outside with the agencies. You get to run around all the time. And I think I'm right in the middle of a mental health issue. I mean, when you do it by yourself, and the other thing I'm dealing with is an adult child that has serious issues that's not listening. Not a little child that you can say, go to your room and sit down, but an adult. And don't tell me not to worry, because when you're a parent, it doesn't matter what age. When they're little, you can control them. But when they become adults, you really have to get on your knees. You have to prostrate before the altar, because you hear about all these things that's going on out here in the street. And yeah, God gave me my child, but I'm not ready to let him go. But if he's not going to listen, so those are heavy, heavy issues on me. And I feel like I'm right in the middle of a mental health crisis. Now, I may look together to most people, but I'm not. I'm not.
I want to thank you for your vulnerability, first of all. Thank you for sharing that, because that's something that's real.
And backing up, I was raised by a schizophrenic mother.
So
It's the one I have any sense left at this point.
well, we thank God
But
for
God.
you. Yes, yes. And like I said, thank you for your vulnerability. And this looks like a church I grew up in where we were literally family. So, like, the people in my church would show up for each other. So, how can we show up for her? You don't have to answer it, but I want it to marinate in your spirit. How can we show up for her? Now, with that child, baby, I understand, because they're oldest of mine. Whew. I used to slang snot at the altar all the time about her. All of the time. And I had to learn how to cut the umbilical cord. It was the hardest thing for me to do in life. It was so hard. I didn't want to let her go because I need you to do it this way, and I need you to do it this way, and blah, 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 blah. And so when I learned to kind of let her go, my mentor says it like this: sometimes you have to jump off the cliff and grow your wings as you fly. Cutting it gave me so much peace. And it's hard to look at a train wreck getting ready to happen, because you see it. You see it clear as day. She's had a train wreck, but I was like, baby, I told you, mama don't just talk just to be talking, because I've lived some of these experiences. And I know you said you don't want to let your baby go, but sometimes we have to in order to save ourselves. Okay. How? I had to start saying no. I had to start knowing that I poured everything that needed. I poured what I needed to pour into her. And so now as an adult, you have to make that mistake. My mama used to say it like this: sometimes you just have to lay in that bed you made. And it may be rocky sometimes, it may be hard sometimes. And she laying in one right now, she's a single mom too, so I'm not trying to make it comfortable for her. I'm gonna help and support you, but no, I'm not gonna, and I'm not trying to diminish what you're going through, but for her, no, I'm not keeping her. I love her, yeah, I absolutely love her, but now I don't feel like being bothered today. And we can talk offline as well.
And I want to say,
Excuse me. I have had an experience with my mother. Okay, and Sister Black is here, and she can attest to what my mother did for me. I was a cat. I was out of control. And my mother prayed for me. Her friends prayed for me. And she stayed up all night worrying about me. But Sister Black, I would really like for her to share what my mother shared with her about me. And today, I want to say, before my mother passed, my mother became my close friend. We became road buddies, but at one time, we did not communicate. But Sister Black can share with you what my mother did. Take it to her.
To the panel and to the group. Sister Dent, as most of us in here, had a mother that loved her children. And in loving your children, as you know, You want the best in life for them. And the best is not what they want for themselves. And we pray for our children because we know what's ahead because of our experience in life. Sister Stephen loved her wayward child who did not hear. She loved her mother, but she just felt like she just had to have her way, as most young people feel today. She worried us, her mom, and that may not be a good word, but I'm telling it to you like I told it to her. Her mother worried us down here at Cherry Grove about that child. Constantly, she asked for prayer for that child. And today we see the results of that prayer, that when God's people come together, when mothers come together and believing in God, knowing that he will hear and answer. But as mothers, we have to wait on his time, not ours. And I can testify to that too, but I'm agreeing with her that she's here today because of prayer. And if prayer had not turned her around, she probably wouldn't be here. She would probably be in a grave. But we have to be patient with our children. And I like what you said, that you had to cut the apron string, which most of us will not do because we feel like we are failing. But sometimes that's the best thing that you can do, is cut that apron string and let them have their way, because you are believing and depending on God. Her mother's gone now. We was friends. In fact, we were mother-in-laws, and we shared being grandmothers together. So we shared a lot about our children. And before I really met her, Sister Dent, I had heard so much about her. Those prayers brought tears. You can't always go to God with a dry eye. Her mom cried a many days. She prayed and she cried. God heard, and we see the results. Her mother's gone on to glory, but we see the results of prayer. Thank you.
And Sister Black said something very powerful when she said they have to have their way. Let them have their way. I am by no means an expert at parenting. I don't have all the answers. There was no book when I had my son. There's still not one, last I checked. But I will say that as a parent, and I hope to see my child get older, become a man, I pray to God you go in the way that I've trained you. However, I know that I'm dealing with a human. I know that I'm dealing with someone who's going to make his own decisions in spite of everything I've ever taught. I pray that you listen to mama. In the event, God forbid, that it does not happen, I pray that I'm strong enough to let you have your way, because they have to figure it out. I had to figure it out. Sister Dent had to figure it out. You, Sister Lee, you had to figure it out. I don't know, because I think you're perfect, but we all have to figure it out. And sometimes some roads for some children are harder than others. They really are. And Doc said something, you fix your bed, you lay in it. And I think as I watched my mother, who I have two brothers, and watching her cut the cord, it was very hard for her. But you make your bed, you lay in it. And sometimes it takes that, I call it a come to Jesus meeting. Sometimes it takes that for some people. Well, it takes that for all of us, but some of us meet him a little harsh than others. And sometimes it takes that for them to see what this world is really about, what life is about, or what they should be doing with their life. But as a parent, Sister Black also said, patience. We gotta wait. And if we are praying and crying and laying prostrate at the altar, then we have to be patient that God is going to do just what he needs to do in the nick of time. And that's all we have. It's just that faith and that patience and the prayers that it'll all work out the way God wants it to, in his time. In his time.
Give us 1 second, Sister Dent and the panel. I know the panel has a lot to say. I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I want to give this lady the opportunity to speak her piece.
Good evening. I really just wanted to speak on, I got in late, but when the mother was out here talking about that she retired and now she's taking care of her sick husband. And what I wanted to talk about is that I know I look young, but I was in that position. Like right after I married my husband was sick. But I was still working. I'm still working. But I just wanted her to know that I know it's hard trying to get the resources and the help that you need, because you need a break. You need a mental break, you need a physical break when with you getting up every morning. I don't know what type of illness or sickness, but I can use me. My husband had dementia, and me getting up and trying to take care of him and trying to see after him and trying to get the assistance that I need. At some point, I was at a point to like, I'm just done. But the assistance is out there. The help is out there to help you in the home. And you know, I know everyone had talked about the kids. So I had that son that was, and he's still there, but I had to let go because I had to decide, first of all, for my mental and my physical being. But I had to have my mental and my physical being in order to take care of my husband. So I couldn't take care of me, my husband, and that adult child that wanted to run those streets, that wanted to use the drugs. All I could do is still, even then and now, is just pray and ask God to cover him. Because at the time, my most important thing was myself and my husband. But I just want you to know that it's resources out there. I'm willing to, even anytime you need to just talk with you to help you get those resources, because they there, but never give up about the resources, because they are there to help you to be able to take care of your husband in order for you to get a break, if it's just to be in the house alone, just to lay down and just relax. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So what I was going to mention on two different parts about taking care of your husband. I had an aunt. She lived in Idaho. My grandmother had Alzheimer's and dementia. So she had to quit her job to take care of my grandmother. Over time, it became more and more stressful for her because of seeing my grandmother one way, how she normally is, slowly but surely deteriorating into someone who she didn't even know. That alone was hard for her to bear. And I like to ask the question to you, besides tonight and besides trying to find resources on your own, how often have you asked for help? A lot. So you actually verbalize you need help. Okay, so the thing with her, she never would verbalize she need help. She expected maybe her sister to come over and help and to do things, but actually if we don't verbalize it, we can't expect for no one to come help us or to give us resources if we don't verbalize that we need these things. So I would like to say within, Talia had asked within the church family, find out who your support system is. Once you connect with who your support system is, then you can be able to tell them how they can help assist you with finding some time for yourself or giving you a break or whatever you may need to help you stay mentally and emotionally and physically impaired for your husband. I don't have a child that's old enough that is I have a child that acts out, but not old enough to where I feel like I can't draw back in. But there was a point where I had to realize and reflect back on my mom's words and my dad's words. A hard head make a soft behind. So there were things that they taught me and instilled in me not to do, but I did it anyway because I was going to do what I wanted to do regardless of what they were saying. A lot of time kids rebel just because you say no or because they know that they're not supposed to do it. And so they looking for the attention that you give them in return. And it's a negative way to try to gain attention. So I would say to you, pray and fast, because I'm still living off my mama's prayers and fasting. And it is because of her praying and fasting that I'm able to get through day to day. She cannot live my life for me. You cannot live your life for your son. Only thing you can do is pray, fast, and turn it over to God. And when he comes around, because sooner or later he's going to realize it, that, hey, mama was right. I put mama through all of this when I shouldn't. And he's going to come back around and he's going to let you know you was right. But at that point, don't put him down and say, I told you so, or this. I understand, son. And regardless, I still love you. But at the end of the day, I had to let you make your own mistakes.
We have one other question over here.
In response to Sister Lee appeals and making us aware of things, I fully understand and empathize with you. My cousin was an only child with a father who became chronically ill with several illnesses, and the hurdle that we have to go through here is just far beyond anything you would expect for a senior adult who's been a taxpayer, who's been a abiding citizen within the community. The resources are very limited. It's years. It's very degrading and frustrating to go through it. And it's just that we have to also be more present when we think about our laws and things that we have that are in place for people such as that nature and things. And it's just a difficult challenge. And so not to just kind of keep on just harping on it, but it is the system in itself is a very challenging system to navigate when you need help outside that you think should be readily available.
That's a great point. And to add to that, it is so important who we put in office as well, because those people make decisions on whether our governor is going to expand Medicaid or things of that nature. So that's important, who we put in office as well. So thank you for bringing that point.
I'd just like to break in here. All of you all have made really great points and things of that nature. A lot of us can't really relate, but I think the overall thing that I'd like to say at the end of the point in the question is beyond resources and doing things to get resources, because no offense to what anyone else said, it's still you having to go do that, right? So if it's just a break, that's what we're here for, right? You want to go get coffee, you want to go get dinner, you know what I'm saying? If you need those resources, we've heard all of the availabilities of those things. But if you just need a break, if you need someone to take your place for a day, I think there's anybody in this church that would be very willing to do so. So I just want to make that point, and I think we can move on.
You all have definitely given us a lot to consider and to think about and to truly take in. and kind of just chew on for a little while, because I think what we just noticed is that everybody in here is dealing with something, even if we don't say it out loud, okay? Everybody is dealing with something, and at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves. I can't say it enough, because it's something that's so easy to say, but it's so hard to do, especially as a woman. Because we tend, and it goes right back, I'm going to take it back, y'all. It goes back to that Superwoman. We think we are supposed to do it all, and not taking away from anything that was shared, but really just thinking about taking it off, seeing where you fit now in this new world when you take that cape off, because the world is going to look a little different. It's not going to be as heavy. You know, the sun is going to shine a little brighter. The grass is going to be a little greener. I like how Marilyn says she gets in nature. That is very important. But thinking about that, thinking about taking the cape off, setting the boundaries, being able to say no, makes me think of the self-care. You know, we say that, but we really don't do it. We really don't know what it is. You know, I saw something, I think it was Thea told me, or somebody said, are we doing self-care or aftercare? You know, are we really taking care of ourselves, and what exactly does that look like? And when you talk about self-care, I'm not talking about going to get your toes done, going to get your nails done. Y'all, we're going to do that anyway. I'm going to get my hair retwisted anyway. That's not self-care. That's called maintenance. But when I'm talking about self-care, I'm talking about what do you intentionally push to the side and put you in front of it and say, at this moment, none of this matters. It's about me.
As a single mom of two, sometimes, and Sister Lee, I want to thank you as well. You said something to me a long time ago. I came in one day and I was like, these kids, sometimes a single mother, I feel like they double team and they tag team me some days. If it's coming from one angle, it's coming from the other. But you said something one day, you was like, when they're babies, they're on your lap. But when they're adults, they're on your heart. And when I tell you, some days I'm like, oh, what happened? My daddy has always been here. I was a caregiver for my father, so I know how that feels. Being a caregiver, taking care of somebody, you're putting their needs before your needs. But it's just like now God revealed to me everything that my kids do is for a reason. It's necessary. As a child, I went through things in and out of trouble, in and out of jail, but I got it right. I had a praying mother that I got it right. So what I do now is God revealed to me, I'm revealing these things to you so you will know what to pray for. So when I go through, I'm crying, I'm like, Lord, have mercy. But he said, I'm revealing it to you because if you didn't know, you wouldn't know what to pray for. So I pray, I constantly pray, I cry. Oh, I cry all the time. And oh, yeah, I may say some words that ain't nice because they're my kids. But all in all, I do a lot of praying. When God reveals to me, I'm like, Lord, now I know how to fight the enemy. I know how to suit up. I know where it's coming from, and I know how to fight. So you hang in there. It's hard being a caregiver. You need help. You got your church family here. Is Dr. Lee a veteran? You got me. You call me. You know I work for the VA. You call me. All right?
And there are definitely resources over there. I work over there too. So yeah, get the resources. And I'm glad you brought up this point about the children. Sometimes we have to give them permission to make mistakes. We have to allow them to make those mistakes that they're going to make and learn from them. And I had to learn that as well. Because if they don't go through some things, they're not going to know. They won't have experiences. So allowing them and not, doing this when they come back. I think it was the prodigal son that squandered all of his inheritance. And so when he came back home, Daddy didn't say, I told you so, and you did this, and you wasted my money, and blah, blah, blah. You out there, with the girls and balling and all this. He got the absolute best for him and laid it all out, just like he hadn't done anything. And sometimes we need to be able to show that grace when they make mistakes as well. Because I posted about a couple of weeks ago, I want that same grace extended to me that other people want. So I have to be able to be graceful in that process. And, not to say that, okay, we're going to make this mistake 10 times. No, we're not going to make this mistake 10 times. But we're going to learn from it. And I want you to see how we can learn from it and what can we do different. We have to learn how to communicate effectively with each other as well. I grew up in a home where children are seen and not heard. You do what I say do, and that's just the end of and I had to learn as an adult. That didn't work for my oldest child. I was a single mama. I'm trying to compensate for what daddy didn't, baby dad didn't do. So I had to learn how to parent each one of them because they like night and day. Lord knows they like night and day. But we have to give them grace. We have to allow them to make mistakes, and we have to be loving teachers when they come back from those mistakes that they made as well.
Yeah, so I want to tag along with the conversation about self-care. I like to think about it in 4 components. So when you think about your self-care mentally, how are you taking care of your mind? So that may be talking to a therapist. That may be journaling out your thoughts. How are you taking care of yourself spiritually, right? Are you staying connected to your church? Prayer, meditation, having a sense of community from the spiritual standpoint. The third one is physically. How are you taking care of your body? Are you attending your doctor's visits? Are you wearing clothes that make you feel good, that make you feel confident, right? So it's even the simple things like that. And then the 4th component is emotionally. How are you taking care of your emotions? If you're frustrated, can you call a friend and talk about, hey, this just happened. I want to take a few minutes just to vent and get this off my chest, right? And so the mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, those are the 4 components I like to look at when you think about self-care.
In that physical, what does your sleep look like? Because sleep is important. Now, we don't have to get 8 hours, because some people can do 2, 3, 4 hours and they good. But your sleep is important as well.
And I like to say, even with self-care, like Marilyn said, knowing those 4 components, but also you need someone to help guide you to understand those components as well. Remember when I said growing up, a lot of things that I've learned now in the mental health field, I was not aware of. So by me not having knowledge of it, I could not recognize it as well. So having, for example, mental health, and I say this all the time to my family and to my clients, mental health is very essential. Mental and emotional, very. Just like you have to take care of yourself physically when something is going on, when something is wrong, it's the same aspect as you having to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally. And a lot of time, even in the church, we shy away from mental health and seeing a therapist. We'll say, oh, pray to God, or do this, do that. Yes, you do that, but also you take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. Just like you go to the doctor, go to your therapist. Make sure that you're getting your checkup. Make sure that you're doing what you're doing to make sure that you're at your best at all times. Because, again, if you're not at your best, you can't be at your best for anyone else.
And the tips that Marilyn shared, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional, those are definitely aspects to look at to get started when you want to think about incorporating self-care. Write those things down. What will it look like for you mentally? What will it look like for you physically, spiritually, emotionally? How do you need to have your needs met in those areas by yourself? What do you need to do for you to get those needs met for you. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about self-care. Tiffany, you said something and I lost it just that quick. But I hate that. I lost it. But it'll come back to me hopefully. But yeah, so when we're with your self-care, just making sure that you do take care of yourself. Making sure that you are not pouring from an empty cup. Making sure that you take the time out to think about you. You know, think about you. It's not selfish. Self-care is not selfish, okay? Think about you, journal, walk, exercise. I just can go on and on about self-care because it's so important to me. And it's one of those things, it's one of those areas that sometimes we will see that we actually do not do. You know, we think we do, but we don't. And thinking about that, I want to give you all something to think about. And it's something that I tell a lot of the women that I work with in therapy, because everybody is always in search of something. We're always in search of something. Whether it's we're looking for ourselves, we're looking for others, we're looking for meaning, we're looking for purpose. We are always in search of something. And it was, and of course you all know I'm a counselor, and I just hate to say it this way, but there's no other way to explain it. And existential therapy is all about finding purpose, finding yourself, you know, looking for that meaning, determining what's your center, meaning what means the most to you. And I always leave, when I'm dealing with my clients who are going through that existential crisis, I always leave them with, we live by the premise of we are what we do. We live by that, but it should be we do what we are. When you do, as I say, when you do what you are, when you do who you are, there is no fight. There is no struggle. There is no challenge. You're simply doing exactly who you are. But when you try, and I have to always look at it, but when you try to live by what you're doing, you always end up confused. You always come up short because you're trying to be something. If your job is not who you are, don't try to be your job. And I don't mean this way, if your church is not who you are, don't try to be your church. If Doc is not who I am, I can't be her. I can only be Keisha. And I can only do what I know to do. And if I talk about being my authentic self, if I talk about being unapologetically me, then I have to do who I am. And that's even in my mistakes, that's even in my flaws, that's even in my imperfections. I am who I am. And one of the ladies said it, giving yourself some grace. And when you think about the story of the prodigal son and how that father welcomed his son after he went and did all that he had done, flip it. Welcome yourself that same way. Lay that plate that same way for yourself. Extend that same grace to yourself. What will that look like if you were to do that to yourself? Out of every decision, every mistake, everything, you extend yourself some grace, because we just like we allow our children to make mistakes, understand, women, we are going to make mistakes for the rest of our lives. And it's only a mistake when you never learn the lesson. So as long as we live, there are lessons to be learned. Lessons happen through mistakes. Okay. Y'all, I did not know what time it was. But this is what happens when we get together. We sit and we talk for hours. But if you were to take anything away today, if we were to leave you all with anything, take off the cape, set some boundaries, and then take care of yourself. That's all I got.
That was very good. Thank you. Thank you all to the panel. Excellent advice. I learned a lot. You know, I'm excited leaving here. Um, I hope that you guys got something out of this. Even if it was one thing, I hope it was two things. I hope it was multiple things. But I hope that you got something, and that was the entire point. Saturday, we hope to meet at the Eco Shed. That is Keisha and myself's second event. And so at that second event, it is just a gathering, but what that gathering is about what we just learned right here. How did we apply it to the rest of the week, and how do we plan to apply it to the rest of our year and the rest of our life? And so, I mean, you can't care for anyone else if you don't care for yourself. And so that's the whole point. You have to be unapologetically you before you can be unapologetical before anyone else. I don't even know if that's the correct way to say it, but I said it. And I'm going to say it again. but honestly, just go forth, live life, and be yourself, and be true to yourself before you can do and help anyone else. And I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. We're here. We'll be here. I'll offer myself. I don't have much help, but I'll offer myself for the next few minutes. I'm sure these ladies will too. But come see us Saturday, Eco Shed. Look out for the text to group me. It's on Commerce Street. We just hope to have a good time, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we just hope to talk and chat. And that is
Cute.
Mother's Day. You know, be cute. Come on now. Just hope to talk and chat and just get a break. It's Mother's Day weekend, but you get a break. Because if your children are anything like me, you didn't plan anything. So,
So bring your moms. Bring your mom, bring your children, come out, coffee, chat, and chew, like Thea said. It's at 10 o'clock at the Eco Shed. It's at 133, is it East Commerce? Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but Commerce, okay. Yeah, that street. 133 at 10 a.m. Saturday, we will meet. Just to, again, let our hair down, or for myself, let our locks down, and just enjoy one another, just fellowship as women, breathe. And the last thing, to act, like Thea just said it, ask yourself, and I ask myself this quite often, what are you doing it for? What are you doing it for? That's something that it means a lot when you can stop and ask yourself that. And if you can't think of an answer when you ask yourself that, go back. Don't do it, probably, but go back, rethink, and try again. But ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Good night, ladies.